Shalom, everyone. I want to start this video out with a quote by General Albert Pike. General Albert Pike, Grand Commander, Sovereign Pontiff of Universal Freemasonry, giving instructions to the 23 Supreme Councils of the world, said this: "The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine." So what is the Luciferian doctrine? To sum it up, I'm going to also provide a quote here by Bill Cooper. Now, Bill Cooper was the author of the classic book, Behold a Pale Horse. This is not from that book. I heard him say this in a video. This sums it up, what the Luciferian doctrine is. Quote, "Here's the way they look at it. Here's their metaphor for the end of innocence. Adam and Eve were held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, cruel, and vindictive God. Lucifer, through his agent Satan, set man free from this garden by giving him the gift of intellect. Through the use of intellect, man will conquer the earth, will conquer nature, and will himself become God. It's taught in every Masonic temple in this land." Okay, to clarify now, when he says Lucifer through his agent Satan, okay, in the Genesis account, okay, this is the serpent. The serpent came to Eve and beguiled Eve. Okay, Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. "And the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him." Okay, so that right there settles who the serpent was and is. The serpent is the devil and Satan and leads all the world astray. So there is this belief. I'm realizing it's not really very much of an uncommon belief out there. Even those who are not necessarily, involved in Masonry or anything, but this belief that the so-called, the quote-unquote God of the Old Testament is an evil God or is a tyrant and is not the true Father, is not the same deity that would be the Father of Messiah, who is YaHuWaH in the Gospels. And this video is basically going to, I'm going to make the case that this is simply not the case at all, that his Father and our Father is the so-called God of the Old Testament. Okay? 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. "Now the Ruach speaks expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils." Okay, so I propose to you that this notion that's being propagated out there, that the God of the Old Testament is not the true Father, not Messiah's Father, is a doctrine of devils. Matthew chapter 24, verse 5. Okay, so in Matthew chapter 24, YaHuWaH's disciples come to him, and they say, "Tell us, what is the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And the first thing that he tells them is, "Take heed that no man deceive you. Take heed that you are not led astray." Matthew 24, 5. "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall lead many astray." Okay, so I take this to mean that many shall come in his name, saying that he is indeed the Messiah, but they shall teach other things that lead people astray. Now think about this. John chapter 14, verse 6. YaHuWaH, the Messiah, tells us, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Okay, now, he refers to his Father and the Father many times throughout the Gospels. If his Father is not the God of the Old Testament, then who in the world is his Father? This makes this a very, very confusing matter. And this makes our Father a God of confusion, which I do not believe is the case at all. But these doctrines of devils sow confusion and create great confusion because it makes it completely unclear who his Father is. So if he says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes to the Father except through me," he is the way by which we are redeemed to our Creator, the Father. But if one does not know who his Father is and believes that his Father and our Father is an evil God, Okay, I mean, is there redemption in that? I think that Matthew 24:5 would apply to this, that this is a doctrine of devils that is leading folks astray. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to make the case that, the God of the Old Testament is the true Father and is the Creator and is Messiah's Father, and I think that he makes this abundantly clear in the Gospels as well. Okay, so Exodus chapter 12, we are told that the means by which the Israelites, the Hebrews, who were in bondage in Egypt, the means by which they were delivered out of Egypt is they were to take a lamb without spot, without blemish. They were to slay that lamb and take the blood of that unblemished lamb and put it on the doorposts of their house. And this is the means by which judgment from YaHuWaH, the Father, passed them over. This is where Passover comes from. Okay. Exodus chapter 12, verses 12 and 13. And I shall pass through the land of Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, on that night, and shall strike all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both man and beast. And on all the mighty ones of Mitzrayim I shall execute judgment. I am YaHuWaH. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Mitzrayim. Okay, so this is a very important point right here. It is by the blood of the Lamb that they are passed over for judgment and that they are delivered from bondage and death out of Egypt. Now, John chapter 1, verse 29. On the next day, Yohanan, who is John, saw YaHuWaH, who is more commonly known as Jesus. Okay, let me start over. So Yohanan is John. YaHuWaH is the one whom most people refer to as Jesus. But I refer to him by his, what I believe is his true Hebrew name of YaHuWaH. On the next day, Yohanan saw YaHuWaH coming toward him and said, See, the Lamb of Elohim who takes away the sin of the world. Now, think about this. Why did John refer to YaHuWaH as the Lamb? Okay, if he is not the fulfillment of the Passover lamb, then this would be some strange nickname that John apparently made up on the spot. But that is not the case at all. John knew that the coming of the Messiah is the fulfillment of the prophecy of the Passover lamb in Exodus chapter 12. Okay? So, again, this is where Passover comes from. They were delivered out of Egypt on the first month, commonly known as Abib, on the night of the 14th, going into the 15th day of that month. And YaHuWaH, the Passover lamb, the Messiah, was also slain on the same day of Passover 1,500 years later. This is a 1,500-year prophecy that is written about in Exodus chapter 12. Okay, this right there shows that this is his father. Okay, now there's more to this. YaHuWaH is referred to as the Lamb or a lamb in 26 different verses of Revelation. Now, there is no other reason why he would be referred to as the Lamb unless he is the fulfillment of the Passover Lamb. Revelation chapter 1, verse 5. And from YaHuWaH Messiah, the trustworthy witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler of the sovereigns of the earth, to him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood. 1 John chapter 1, verse 7. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of YaHuWaH Messiah, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. So being that YaHuWaH is referred to as the Lamb because he is the fulfillment of the Passover Lamb, it is by his shed blood that we are passed over from judgment. If you are covered by the blood of the Lamb, you are passed over for judgment and delivered from bondage and death. This is exactly what happened in Exodus chapter 12, the story of the Exodus. It is only by the blood of the Lamb that they were delivered, okay? And it is only by the shed blood of Messiah, the blood of the Lamb, by which judgment will pass you over. if you are covered in his blood. Okay? Now this right there, this connects from the Torah through the Gospels, through Revelation, establishing that the deity who delivered his people, the Israelites, the Hebrews, out of Egypt, okay, what right now would be about 3,500 years ago, okay, at the coming of Messiah, it was about 1,500 years prior, okay, that is his Father, and that is our Father, and this is a prophecy of the coming of Messiah right there, okay, and he delivered his people through Moses, of course, okay. Now, what I have seen quite a bit is that people will use John chapter 8, verses 44 through 46, where YaHuWaH says to the Pharisees, "Ye are of your father, the devil." And then he goes on to expound and make a few more points. Okay, but that is used as if to say, see, look, this God of the Old Testament, that the Pharisees were, they were supposed to be keeping Torah, but what in actuality they were doing is they were adding to the Torah their own traditions. Okay, and this is why he refers to them as such. And I'm gonna read from the Gospel of Mark here in a moment. But this is what's called cherry picking the scriptures, cherry picking the Gospels to support any one particular doctrine. And I believe without any doubt that our Father has set up His Word so that those who are dishonest can cherry pick and can twist the Word. The Word can be twisted. Okay, however, the truth is in the Word, and one needs to rightly divide the Word of truth, as it is written. I forget where this is. I think it's perhaps in Timothy, maybe it's in Peter. I don't remember. But we are supposed to be His workmanship, rightly dividing the Word of truth. Okay, so Matthew 4:4, he tells us. He tells us, but he's speaking to the devil at the time, you shall live by every word that comes from the mouth of YaHuWaH. Okay? So everything needs to be taken into context, the totality of the word. Okay? So, again, John chapter 8, 44 through 46, I have seen this thrown around quite a bit as so-called evidence or proof that the God of the Old Testament is a different deity and is therefore not YaHuWaH's father, because he refers to the Pharisees and says, you are of your father the devil, which is supposed to mean that they were worshiping the devil by, keeping Torah, but they weren't really keeping Torah. Okay, so let's get into that. Mark chapter 7, verses 5 through 13. And he is addressing the same group here, the Pharisees. And I believe this explains exactly why he said this in John chapter 8. Okay, quote, Mark 7, 5 through 13. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, why do your taught ones not walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? And he answering said to them, well did Yeshayahu, who is Isaiah, prophesy concerning you hypocrites, as it has been written, this people respect me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And in vain do they worship me, teaching as teachings the commands of men. Forsaking the commands of Elohim, you hold fast the tradition of men. And he said to them, well do you set aside the commands of Elohim in order to guard your tradition. For Moshe, who was Moses, said, respect your father and your mother, and he who curses father or mother, let him be put to death. But you say, if a man says to his father or mother, whatever profit you might have received from me is a gift, you no longer let him do any matter at all for his father or his mother. Here's the key point. Nullifying the word of Elohim through your tradition which you have handed down, and many such traditions you do. Okay. They, by adding to the word and adding their own traditions, were nullifying the word of YaHuWaH in the Torah. That is why he refers to them as ye are of your father the devil. If you go and twist the word around, then you're serving the devil. Okay? His word is his word. Following his word is serving him. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2. Do not add to the word which I command you, and do not take away from it, so as to guard the commands of YaHuWaH your Elohim which I am commanding you. They were adding to the word, they were taking away from the word, they were creating their own version of truth. This is why he referred to them as such. Okay? Revelation chapter 22, verses 18 and 19. For I witness to everyone hearing the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to them, Elohim shall add to him the plagues that are written in this book. And if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, Elohim shall take away his part from the book of life and out of the set-apart city, which are written in this book. Okay, that's very serious right there. Add to the word, plagues are added unto you. Take away from the word, your name is taken out of the book of life. Now, if this is referring to the book of Revelation, why does this also not apply to the rest of the word as well? Okay, so we're told this in Deuteronomy, in the Torah, and in Revelation. Okay? That's what the Pharisees were doing. That's why he referred to them as such in John chapter 8. Okay? Again, Matthew 4:4. And he answering, now he's answering the devil, YaHuWaH is, and he answering said, it has been written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of YaHuWaH, his Father. Okay, he's quoting Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 3 here. Now, why in the world, if this is a different deity, not his Father, why would he tell the adversary, the enemy of mankind, man shall live by every word of the mouth of YaHuWaH? If he is not validating that deity as his Father, with this right here in Matthew 4:4, I mean, he clearly is doing that. Okay? Luke chapter 24, verse 44. And he said to them, these are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all have to be filled that were written in the Torah of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms concerning me. He is validating the words that are written in the Torah. He is validating the writings of Moses. He is validating what is there in the Torah, the prophets, and the Psalms, the Old Testament, the words, the written word in the Old Testament concerning prophecies about him. Okay? Now, if the enemy's words are mixed in there, would he not make that abundantly clear for us to understand? No, he's validating the Old Testament with this verse right here. Okay? I mean, again, this cannot be overstated that, if that is a different God, if that is not his Father in the Old Testament, then he is a God of confusion. Okay? And I do not believe that he is. Okay. Matthew chapter 19, verses 16 through 19. And see, one came and said to him, good teacher, what good shall I do to have everlasting life? And he said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good except one, YaHuWaH. But if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. He said to him, which? And YaHuWaH said, you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, respect your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? He's citing the commandments given in Exodus chapter 20, which were then reiterated in Deuteronomy chapter 5. Okay? He is validating and citing the commandments given in Exodus chapter 20 at Mount Sinai to Moses, to the Israelites. The covenant. Okay? He is validating that. Not only is he validating that, he says, if you wish to enter into life, guard these commands. Okay? Now, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that he would validate the Ten Commandments, the Torah, the heart of the Torah. Okay? If that is a different deity, if that is not his Father, then why in the world would he say, if you wish to enter into life? He doesn't merely say, these are good. He says, if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. Okay? Now, there's a parallel to this also in Luke chapter 10, verses 26 through 28. Okay. Now, something else that I've seen is this. There are some examples in the Old Testament. I believe one is in 1 Kings. I want to say maybe Samuel. I'm not sure. I saw it written down in a comment. Okay, that there were two examples from elsewhere in the Torah, the histories, the writings of the history, so-called. But also there are two examples in the Torah that I'm just going to cover here, where this deity, the God of the Old Testament, appears in thick darkness, and that is used as evidence or proof that this is a different God. Okay, so keep in mind here, Messiah just validated the commandments given at Mount Sinai in Exodus chapter 20. But here we have in Exodus chapter 20, verse 21, this verse. So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe drew near the thick darkness where Elohim was. And that is used as, well, he is a God of light, and there are some verses in the New Testament that says, he is a God of light, there is no darkness in him. Therefore, this must not be the true God, this must not be the true Father, because if he appeared in thick darkness, that is not him. Okay, so, but think about this. Okay, again, Matthew 4:4, man shall live by every word. Okay, so if that is the case, then we must throw out Messiah's words in Matthew chapter 19, verses 17 through 19, where he, again, not only validates the commandments, but says, if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. So we have to throw that out if right here, after the giving of the commandments, he appears in thick darkness, but that's not really him. So who gave the commandments? All right? Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 22. These words YaHuWaH spoke to all your assembly in the mountain from the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a loud voice. And he added no more, and he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. So this is Moses speaking. And he is saying, out of the thick darkness, that deity wrote on the tablets of stone the 10 commandments and gave them to him. Okay? So if we are to believe that this is an evil God, or that this is the devil, that would manifest in thick darkness, then we must believe then that, because what I just read in Deuteronomy 5:22, he appeared in thick darkness and he wrote the commandments on tablets of stone. Okay, so did an evil God, did the devil give the 10 commandments? Okay, now, that's strong delusion is what that is. And I'm gonna expound on that, with bringing out some more stuff here, especially from Revelation, that this cannot be the case. That is utter confusion if that is to be believed. Okay, just because he appears in thick darkness does not mean that this is not him. He can manifest any way that he wants to. Okay, so 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 16. This is a verse used to refute, that this would be the genuine and true Father, from Deuteronomy 5:22 and Exodus 20:21. Okay, 1 Timothy 6:16. Who alone has immortality, dwelling in unapproachable light, whom no one has seen or is able to see, to whom be respect and everlasting light. Okay, and this is used to say, see, this cancels that out. He is a God of light, therefore this cannot be him. But again, okay, take the totality of this. That would mean that an evil God or the devil gave the 10 commandments and wrote them on tablets of stone. Okay, but Messiah validates those commandments and says, if you wish to enter into life, guard those commands. Okay, so if that's the case, again, we got to throw out Messiah's words, So where does the confusion end, right? So, what I can say about that is, I haven't been able to necessarily come to a real good answer as to why he, appears in thick darkness. However, this is not conclusive proof by any means that this is not a good God, or that this is an evil God simply because he manifests himself as such. Again, keep in mind, he dwells in unapproachable light. Okay, so if he wishes to commune closely with Moses and needs to, then he cannot manifest in his true form because Moses would die. Okay, whom no one has seen or is able to see. So maybe he just simply cloaks himself. I don't know what the answer to this is, but this is not weightier right here to use as evidence or proof that this is not the true Father. Okay? Because again, I would say Messiah's words validating the Torah and validating the commandments outweighs that by a significant manner. Okay, So I'm going to get into Revelation a little bit here, but I just want to state right now that I'm going to leave 4 links in the description box. 2 are on teachings of the Father's name and the Son's name, and they are called Restoring the Creator's Name, Hashem Revealed, on the Father's name, the name of YaHuWaH, and why it is pronounced as such, and also what is His Son's name, on the name of Yahushua, and why it is pronounced as such, why this is His true name. These are important matters. Both of these links are by the channel Messenger of the Name. But also, I want to leave a couple lengthy discussions on Paul's writings, because I think that a lot of people take what they think that Messiah said and what they think that Paul wrote as evidence that the validity of the Torah or the validity of the law has been done away with. Therefore, there is no need for us to live within those parameters, which I completely disagree with. Okay, now, so one of those links to a discussion on Paul's writings is by the channel Parable of the Vineyard, and another one is going to be by 119 Ministries, which is specifically on the book of Galatians. Okay, so there'll be 4 links in the description box on these things. Okay, Revelation chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed is he who reads and who hears the words of this prophecy and guard what is written in it, for the time is near. Okay, now keep that in mind. Guard what is written in this book. Now, also keep in mind, there's no other book in the Bible that starts with this, which tells you basically, this is important. Hear these words and guard what is written in it. Okay? And this is also reiterated in Revelation chapter 22, verse 7. See, I am coming speedily. Blessed is he who guards the words of the prophecy of this book. Now, I want to establish that because I believe that no matter what people think that Messiah said regarding the Torah, okay, and because this is a common belief among Protestant Christianity that the Torah, the law, the commandments have been done away with. Well, what does that mean? That means what? We can live however we want to live, without, kind of deciding on our own what is right and what is good and how we should live. I mean, that just does not make sense to me, okay? And this is why I want to bring out these verses in Revelation. So no matter what people think that Messiah said regarding this, and no matter what people think that Paul wrote regarding this, I believe the matter is settled in the book of Revelation. And that is why I bring out Revelation chapter 1, verse 3, and Revelation chapter 22, verse 7. Okay? Now, Matthew 19 is referenced here in Revelation chapter 22, verse 14 as a little footnote. Like there's a correlation in the Gospels to what he said. Now, I did not know this until recently, but Revelation chapter 22, verse 14 is in red lettering. Okay? These are Messiah's words. He said this, Blessed are those doing his commandments, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates unto the city. Now, this is a very strong correlation with what was read earlier in Matthew chapter 19. If you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. He says, Blessed are those doing his commandments, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life. Okay? This needs to be thought about. This needs to be meditated on. How does one completely disavow what is written in Matthew 19 and Revelation chapter 22, verse 14 right here? Messiah said it. Okay, so something else I've seen quite a bit is, people, I've seen a lot of comments regarding it's a narrow gate. Few will enter it, few will find it, and so forth, without any explanation of what that actually means. Okay, so I just want to provide what I think that this refers to. Now, this is coming from Luke chapter 13 and Matthew chapter 7, where Messiah says, Strive to enter through the narrow gate, for many shall seek to enter in and will not be able. I mean, that should be a little bit scary, and it is, Okay, again, keep in mind, he says strive. In Luke chapter 13, verse 24, strive to enter through the narrow gate. Now, strive means action. Strive means you're doing, okay? You got to put forward, you got to show, you got to be a doer of the word. This is what I believe that this means, okay? And also, keep in mind, he says, few will find it. Revelation chapter 12, verse 17. This is what I believe, this is referring to. And what this means is summed up right here in Revelation 12:17. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commandments of YaHuWaH and possessing the witness of YaHuWaH Messiah. So the remnant is defined as those who guard the commandments and have the witness of Messiah, YaHuWaH. Okay? A remnant is a few. Okay? Now, I find there to be a strong and very powerful correlation between Luke 13, Matthew 7, and Revelation 12:17 right there. Also, Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 through 12. Revelation 14, 9 through 11 speaks of those who have received the mark of the beast and what their fate is. Revelation chapter 14, verse 12 gives us a different group. It differentiates a group from those who have received the mark of the beast. And it tells what the characteristics are of that group in Revelation 14:12. Here is the endurance of the set apart ones. Here are those guarding the commandments of YaHuWaH and the belief of YaHuWaH. Okay? 1 John chapter 2, verse 4. The one who says, I know him, and does not guard his commands is a liar, and the truth is not in him. What are his commands? Okay? John chapter 7, verse 16. YaHuWaH answered them and said, my teaching is not mine, but his who sent me. Okay? Now, if it is unclear who the deity of the Old Testament is, and that this notion is propagated that that is not his father, then who sent him? Who is his father? And why would that be left to be so completely ambiguous and unclear? It's not. It is clear enough. That's his father. Okay. Now to expound on this a little bit, talk a little bit about Ron Wyatt for a moment now. Ron Wyatt was a man appointed by the Father in the 80s, and I believe it was even up into the early 90s, where he found the Ark of the Covenant. He found the resting place of Noah's Ark. He found the site of the crossing of the Red Sea with chariot wheels and horses' hooves at the bottom of the sea. A lot of good archaeological work that was done. I have some videos on this channel regarding Ron Wyatt. Now, there's one in particular that I feel is very important to take note of. It's a 7-minute video. It's called Ron Wyatt, the Mark of the Beast. In this video, he says that if you keep the 10 commandments, you will receive the seal of God. Now, he does not use his name YaHuWaH, because most people refer to the Father as God. But he says if you keep the 10 commandments, you will receive the seal of God. There will be a man-made law that comes out in the future which requires people to break one of the 10 commandments. Okay? And those that do that will receive the mark of the beast. Now, he said he was told this by a messenger when he found the Ark of the Covenant in January of 1982. Okay? When he entered the site, beneath the site of the crucifixion where the Ark of the Covenant was. Now keep in mind, he did not do this on his own. He was entirely appointed by the Father to do this work. He was the administrator of the Father's work in this way. Okay? Now, this is important to take note of, because what he's saying can be backed up by Scripture. And this is the most important thing right here. Okay? So, on this note, Ron Wyatt, the Mark of the Beast. 7-minute video. Also, there's a good documentary entitled The Beast and Its Mark, also on this channel, which is 1 hour and 36 minutes long. Well worth a watch regarding this same issue right here. Okay, also, I did a video about a month ago. It's entitled The Sabbath and the Mark of the Roman Catholic Beast. Okay, take this into consideration, okay, because what he is referring to here is that there will be a law that is the so-called Sunday law that will come out at some point. It will probably be in relation to this, thing called climate change, global warming, that in order to, protect the environment and so forth, we need to take a day of rest worldwide. Okay, now, I don't know for sure. However, this is something to take note of, okay, so anyway, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. Actually, let me go back for a second and just state that the false Sabbath is Sunday and that the true seventh-day Sabbath is Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. This was changed in, I believe, the 4th century. Okay, now, if I was the devil, I'd get in there and change his commandments and change his word as well and convince people that there is no need to keep his word. But as I read in Revelation 12:17, 22:14, and 14:12, okay, the keeping of commandments and being a doer of his word is entirely very important. Okay, Deuteronomy 6, verses 6 through 8. Now keep in mind, the Ten Commandments was reiterated in Deuteronomy chapter 5. Okay, so in the very next chapter, Deuteronomy 6, 6 through 8, it reads this. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Frontlets between your eyes. Where's that? The forehead. Where's the mark of the beast? Inner upon the forehead, inner upon the right hand. Okay? So what Ron Wyatt is saying, if you keep the Ten Commandments, you will receive the seal of God. Okay, right here in Scripture it says, if you keep my words, you will receive my mark, my seal, in your forehead and on your hand. I mean, how about that as a correlation between the mark of the beast? Okay? The mark of the beast is any other contract other than this right here. Okay? Messiah, what did he say? If you wish to enter into life, guard the commandments. Where we're told in the Torah, this is my seal. Okay? Again, Deuteronomy 11:18. And you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your being, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Wow, that's powerful. However, if religions are created where it's like, hey, there's no need to study the Torah anymore, that's all been done away with, guess what? They're not going to know about this. They're not going to study this. It's not going to be taught in Sunday churches. Okay? This is why this notion that the God of the Old Testament is not the Father of Messiah, but is a different God, a different deity, evil deity. People are not going to, they're going to completely disregard the importance of the Torah. They're going to completely, they're just going to brush over these verses, everything that I've gone through regarding Matthew 19 and the verses in Revelation. They're going to be missed, they're going to be glossed over, because most people have selective perception, okay? But it tells us in the Word, this is not the case whatsoever. Okay, I think it's abundantly clear. Just from the prophecy of the Passover lamb in Exodus 12, how that connects with the Gospels. And again, he is referred to as the Lamb in 26 different verses in Revelation. What does it say in Revelation 1:3? Blessed is he who hears, guards the words of this prophecy that is written in this book. Okay, again, and reiterated in Revelation 22:7. He is the Lamb. He is the Passover Lamb. By his shed blood, we are cleansed from sin. Judgment passes us over, just like it did in Exodus. And we are delivered from bondage and death. Okay? Now, here's another interesting seal right here. Revelation chapter 14, verse 1. Okay, now first, in Revelation chapter 7, the 144,000 are sealed in their foreheads. Revelation chapter 14, verse 1 tells us what that seal is. And I looked and saw a lamb standing on Mount Sion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written upon their foreheads. His name, okay, written upon their foreheads. That's the seal, the name of YaHuWaH. Okay? Now, that also connects with the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not take my name in vain. Thou shalt not bring my name to naught, to nothing, to waste. Okay? The Father's name, the seal, is the seal on the foreheads of those sealed in Revelation chapter 7. The 144,000. Okay, now, back to Paul for a moment here. What is written in 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 15 through 17? Now, a good friend of mine and a good brother in YaHuWaH pointed out that he thinks that this might be some of the most important verses in the entire Bible. And I'll tell you what, they are very important indeed. Very important to consider. Okay? 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 15 through 17. And reckon the patience of our Master as deliverance, as also our beloved brother Paul wrote to you, according to the wisdom given to him, as also in all his letters, speaking in them concerning these matters, in which some are hard to understand, which those who are untaught and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do also the other scriptures. You then, beloved ones, being forewarned, watch, lest you also fall from your own steadfastness, being led away with the delusion of the lawless. Okay, the delusion of the lawless. As it reads right here in 2 Peter 3:15 through 17. Those who are untaught and unstable twist the meaning of Paul's letters and the other scriptures to their own destruction, and this is the delusion of the lawless. Okay? Look into this. Consider these verses. 1 John chapter 5, verse 3. For this is the love of Elohim, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not heavy. Indeed, they are not. They are entirely freeing. Hallelujah. Thank you for listening.